What's going on, SBR Forum? It is Monday of week 17, and it's the final week of the NFL regular season, and we have almost every line out for this week, and some of the early odds are actually looking pretty inviting this week for the final week of the regular season, as we still have some playoff matchups that have yet to be decided. So let's take a look at some of these early odds here and see if we can have some value, and we'll start in the NFC South, where the Carolina Panthers will be in New Orleans this week to face off against the Saints, and the Saints come in as a -4.5 favorite here over the Carolina Panthers. And I think this actually might be one of the better games of the early schedule here, starting off week 17. The Carolina Panthers have been playing very good football as of late, whereas the New Orleans Saints have not. And I think these teams are pretty relatively evenly matched right now. I think you might be able to expect this line to shrink just a little bit and possibly drop down to around 3.5 points in favor of the Saints by the time this one kicks off on Sunday afternoon. Another big game doesn't have any playoff implications, but the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants meet up from the Meadowlands in New York, and surprisingly, New York is a 10.5 point favorite against the Philadelphia Eagles, and as bad as the Giants have been playing, I think you're definitely going to see some value and some action on the Eagles here as we move along throughout the week. The Eagles haven't been playing that bad on offense, and I think they are still playing for some pride here, and I think you're going to see a pretty good chance of that line going down. It's already starting to drop a little bit. I think some books are starting to have it at 9.5 points, so I think you're probably going to see that line settle down a little bit lower than what it is right now. So if you like the Eagles, I suggest you do it now because they're not going to be there still sitting at 10.5 points, I don't think, by the end of the week. The Houston Texans are -4.5 road favorites in Indianapolis this week as those two meet up to finalize their divisional battle, and as the Colts have just locked up their playoff spot, the Houston Texans are still trying to fight for one of those first-round byes, so this game does actually mean something for Houston, and depending on where the Colts are sitting at in regards to resting their players, which it really remains to be seen because there's such a new team, new coaching staff, rookie quarterback as well. This could be a game to where both teams still play their starters. However, Houston, they do have much more to play for here as they are still going for that first-round bye. So I expect possibly as the week moves on and we possibly see the Indianapolis Colts start to rest people, you might see this line go up just a little bit. Baltimore is a +3.5 underdog on the road in Cincinnati this week, and that's a similar situation as the Ravens still have stuff to play for, even though they won last week. And the Bengals, the home favorites, do not, as they have already locked off their playoff spot and they can't move any higher than the wild card spot. So I don't know if the Bengals will rest anyone. They don't seem like the team that's going to rest, and I think that since Baltimore still has something to play for here, I think you're going to see still this one with both teams going all out and still playing their brand of football. So I'm not too sure about this game. I think I'm going to lay off, but I do think the spread around 3.5 points is right, and I think it's probably going to stay there for the duration of the week. The Chicago Bears definitely have something to play for as they are still trying to sneak into the playoffs into one of those final NFC wildcard slot. They're in Detroit here for Week 17, and they're a field goal road favorite. And I definitely think the Bears are going to win this game. I think they have the Lions number. I think all the Lions are going to try to do is to try to pad Calvin Johnson's newfound record here, and I don't think they're going to have too much interest in beating and winning this game. Obviously, they'd like to beat their division rival and keep them out of the playoffs, but I think the Bears are finally getting it together. As long as Matt Forte's injury isn't too severe, I think the Bears are going to be able to win this one. Then I expect some action on the Bears too. So if you like them right now at a field goal, I suggest you get in on them because I do think the public and some of the sharps are going to bet the Bears in this game on the road. The Jacksonville Jaguars are +4 underdogs in Tennessee this week, and I can already tell you I'm pretty sure I like the Jags in this one. The Titans just have fallen completely apart. It looked like they were starting to get things together once Jake Locker came back, but the Titans are just done for the season. I actually think the Jags still have a little bit of fight left in them too, even though their record doesn't show it. They could start to tank, which is the one thing that you really have to look for in this game. So you probably need to lay off this game entirely because, as we all know, the Jags are one of the worst records right now and still could be going for that first overall pick next season. So that game might be a little bit too hard to bet on right now. So I would completely lay off that 4-point spread there in Tennessee this week. The Green Bay Packers are also still trying to fight for one of those first-round byes, and they are -3 favorites in Minnesota this week. And Minnesota, this game is definitely going to be a good one because Minnesota is still trying to fight for that final wild card spot in the NFC, and they need a win to guarantee that, as the Green Bay Packers also need a win to attempt to get that first-round bye. And Minnesota's fighting off the Bears, as we just mentioned, who are playing in Detroit this week. So this game should be one of the better ones. It's a late afternoon game, so I look for this game to be really entertaining and probably one of the better ones of this week, considering that a lot of teams have already sealed their playoff fates. Speaking of teams that have already sealed their playoff fates, the Denver Broncos are -16 favorites against Kansas City this week. And as long as Denver has one of the, Denver will still have to win, obviously, because they're still fighting off the Patriots and the Texans for that first round bye. So I think you're going to see that the Denver Broncos at least play their starters for most of the game. They're probably going to jump out to a big lead, so don't expect them to play really hard the entire game. It wouldn't surprise me to see if I saw Peyton Manning play only a half of football if Denver jumps out to a big enough lead. So, Kansas City +16 might have some value here. I'd hold off a little bit and wait to see where it moves as the week progresses. But initially, depending on what Denver's game plan is in this game, Kansas City +16 might just be a pretty good bet this week. But then again, that's a really long shot right now, so be very careful. But I do think that Denver will not play very hard in this game. Finally, Sunday Night Football is another one of the marquee matchups this week that have a lot to do with the playoffs, as the NFC East is up for grabs. The Dallas Cowboys are in Washington to face off against the Redskins, and the Cowboys come in as +3.5 underdogs, and I guarantee you I don't think this one's moving one bit. This game is just made for a 3.5 point spread, and I think you're going to see a lot of action on either side, as this one is going for the division. This is a really heated rivalry. These teams do not like each other, and this should be a great game to conclude the NFL regular season, going in and deciding and finalizing the playoffs. That'll do it for me for Monday. Make sure you check back daily for my blog updates, as well as our Friday video, which will recap all of this final week of the NFL regular season in review. I'd like to wish you all a happy holidays, and until Friday, I'm Jordan Sharp. This has been another edition of The Sharp Pick.